Welcome back to Worthington Model Railway. Well, it's hard to believe it's the middle of January. The whole Christmas and New Year just flew by, and I didn't really get very much done, particularly up on the layout in the railway room and the extension. So today I'm going to get back to doing work on the extension, and I want to do a couple of different things. I'm going to be putting some more plaster cloth on. I'm going to be putting just sort of smoothing some stuff out with filler and what have you, and we'll get some painting done, and hopefully we'll see some progress. So here goes. So the first thing I plan to do today is mix up some Sculptor mold, go over this, fill up the holes in this plaster cloth, and also sort of just make it a little bit more smooth in terms of what I'm going to have. I have made a decision that I am going to put some buildings up here. I'm going to make it into, I'll put a pub and a couple of small cottages and something in a road up there, so it gives it some interest. So that's kind of my first job. What I do is get some more plaster cloth and fill in the gap in between where the main line is and where the narrow gauge line is along here. So that's going to be my other job to try to get done today. And then I'm going to try to get some paint on some of this, just a base coat of brownie green paint. And I think that'll be it. If I get all that done today, I'll be happy. The first thing I'm going to do here is mix up some Sculptor mold. I don't tend to mix up too much at one go because I want it to be able to use it. I don't, you know, there are specifications on what you're supposed to use in terms of Sculptor mold to water here. I tend not to do that. I just more get it to the point where it feels good. So I'm going to mix it up. So now there are some instructions on the back here if you want to use those. I will just mix this up until it kind of feels good. I need a little bit more water still. Yep. Okay. So when I'm putting the Sculptor mold on, I tend to put it on pretty thin. It can take a while to set up, and primarily what I'm trying to do is cover the gaps, make things look a little bit less square, maybe more rounded, and make sure that I don't have too many holes in the plaster cloth, because the plaster cloth ends up with a lot of holes in it, and where a lot of that does get covered up when you put static grass or rocks or whatever in place, it's still good to not have too much of it. And of course, you know, you get spots like over here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Where the plaster cloth is not quite stuck down as much as you want it to, you can kind of use the Sculptor mold as a glue to sort of glue it back together. So we'll just keep going with this, and I'll come back when I get a chunk of this done and show you the result. One of the nice things about Sculptor mold is as it starts to set up, if you wet your fingers a little, you can come along sort of behind where you've been, and you can get it really quite smooth. It definitely is pretty easy to smooth out. And not much left in here. I'm going to need to make some more up, but allows you to just keep going. Get it all nice and smooth. Take some of those wrinkles out of the underlying mat there. So I've heard people say that it takes days for Sculptor mold to dry. I find if you don't mix it too wet, and if you put it on pretty thinly, it certainly hardens up pretty quickly. I put a little extra in here, and even that is starting to harden up, so I'm not quite sure where that... maybe it does take a couple of days for it to be rock solid, but it's certainly dry enough to do things with within a couple of hours. I got the plaster cloth now along here in between the two tracks that's filling that gap, and if I zoom in a little bit, you can hopefully see that I put a little bit of a ditch in there, so when that dries it'll have a little bit of a ditch in. What I'm going to do right at that end there, I'm going to put brick along that the edge of this plywood, because I don't really have room to do very much else, but just put a brick wall in there. So that'll be the plan for that bit as we move along. For my base paint, I start off with a little bit of water. By the way, you noticed I use this pot for everything. It all ends up in the same place, so it doesn't make that much difference what it does. So throw in here some, this is just pure, tempera washable cheap artist paint. I think pay a couple of bucks a bottle for it. So we'll put some green in here. I like to get like a muddy greeny brown for my base color. This dark green works well. And then I'm going to add some brown in it. Take the lid off this one too. Then I always add some white glue. Not sure whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, but I always throw some glue in there just to make sure it all sticks to the base. Okay, now I need to mix all that up. I'll be back in a second. As you can maybe see, it takes a fair bit to kind of get this all mixed in together, but the result is a greeny brown mess. And you know what, I'm going to throw some more green in there. That's a little browner than I'd like. I just add paint until I get it where I want it to be, basically. So let's add some more green in here. That's getting to be a better color, I think. Yeah, it still needs a little bit more green. I might put a different flavor green in there. Some brighter green in there, see if that can gets the color better to where I want it to be. Yeah, I think it's coming together now. I want that kind of dirt color, but a lot of this is going to be covered in grass. A little bit of green in there. I think this paint is looking pretty good, so we're going to start painting this whole area up here. So I will leave the camera on for a minute when I start painting, and we'll speed it up a little bit because you don't really want me to watch me painting. So what I'm going to mention here is that some people say you should leave this to fully dry before you start to paint it. I don't really see the reason. It's only got water in it. This is water-based paint. It's just more water. And I don't know that it takes any longer to dry with the paint on than without the paint. But people can argue about that and comment if you like. The main idea here is not to have any white showing through, so that when we put whatever we put on, whether it's rocks, whether it's static grass, whatever, that we don't have white. We have some other color which will blend in better. The stark white definitely does not look good underneath things. And even though this whole area here that I'm about to do will almost certainly end up in here with rocks, still want to cover it with paint. So as you can probably see here, partially from that sort of mix of paints that I use and stirring it up, but you know, just sort of letting some of it settle, you do get this sort of browny green mix, which actually looks pretty good. I don't worry too much about little gaps and things of that nature, or anything that you know, I can later hide with a little bit of foliage. I do want to make sure there are no white bits showing through. If need be, I will go over in a few areas and with another dab of paint as it dries if I see areas that I think need more paint. The other thing is, I have tried this, and I know some people say, well, you know, take the either take the sculptor mold or take the plaster cloth and dip it in water and paint first so it's not white. I've done it. It kind of works. The thing is, you've got to go over it anyway because it just does not work enough, and so you've got to paint it all anyway. So I don't necessarily think that that is something that's a great idea. Ask how much paint should I mix up? I have no idea. I just got lucky. Usually, you know, it's pretty easy to mix something up that's very close in color. And as we say, depending on where it's going on, it's a slightly different color anyway. In fact, I'm going to put a little bit more on top of there, get that a bit greener. See, there's some white coming through there. So we'll leave that to dry. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to throw a little scatter on this, but very little, just enough to not more than just a light sprinkling. That will stick into the paint and the glue. If I put more than a little on there, we end up with way too much. I will give you an example of that. This is what happens if you put too much scatter down. What actually you end up building up these little piles of scatter that you need to either remove or re-glue or whatever. So we can reuse some of that. We'll do that in a second. That's kind of all she wrote for today. We'll let this all dry off. Let me show you it from the other angle. Painted that gap in between the tracks there. Obviously at the end there where the tunnels are going to need painting. I'm going to do more. I have to do some more work with that, so not too concerned about that right now. But if we zoom in, it looks like that's as far as I can go with a zoom right now. I'll get a little closer. There will be a multitude of sins here that get covered up as we add ground cover, and as I said before, I have some buildings that are going to go up in that area over there with a road in the front here. So I have to work out exactly how I'm going to do that yet, but we will get that sorted at some point. Okay, that's it for the moment. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Progress, definitely a little slow, but it's getting there. It's amazing how fast it goes once you start to work through it all, but it's going to take me a while to get all the way around this extension. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe with the button to the top right, another video to the top left. And this was actually my 150th video. Somebody asked me if I was going to do something special. I'm kind of trying to save that for hitting that 1,000 subscribers, which we are getting close to. So when we hit 1,000 subscribers, then we'll put something special on.